Hello everyone, my name is Adrian. Oh, I'm gonna click start recording. There you go. Good morning everyone, my name is Adrian. I'm the CEO and founder of Groundhogg. Welcome to another session of Office Hours. This is your opportunity to ask questions and get live answers to those questions, tutorials, or just general things that you want to know about. This is your opportunity to ask those questions and get those answers. And I think I said that already. Today, I wanted to focus on something that has become increasingly important, and that are tools that allow you to help remote workers or help you work remotely if you find yourself in that sort of situation. A lot of people in our group had offices established, and now they do not have places for those offices, or rather they've been displaced from those offices. So I wanted to share with you at least some of the tools that we're using in order to help with that, in order to help us communicate with our team, in order to help us communicate with you and continue to provide valuable services and education. So before we get into it, at any point, if you want to ask a question about the software, about our tools, about Groundhogg, about WordPress, or anything that is currently a roadblock in your business that you need assistance with, then you can go ahead and comment on this live feed, and I will read it out loud, and I will then share an answer to the best of my ability with you. So go ahead and type hello, just so that we can know that you're here with us, and I'll shout out and say hello back. This Office Hours will be recorded and will be posted on the Groundhogg Academy website. All recordings are now going there, so if you have to jump ship or if you are coming late, then don't worry. We will be able to post the recording of this Office Hours entirely if you want to go back through it. Fun announcement. We are working on a brand new dashboard for Groundhogg reporting. It's going to be super slick and super pretty, and it's going to look something like this, so you can look forward to that coming soon. And let's just jump into it. Let's talk about some tools that we can use to help you work remotely. So see, there's just some of the tools that we use, and so we'll talk about some of their setup as well, so that you can either follow in our footsteps or come up with similar similar work routines. So in the communication category, communication with your team is incredibly important. Let's talk about some of the software that we use for that. So the first software that we use is Zoom. Zoom is incredibly valuable. It is a live chat tool. If you ever used to use GoToMeeting, it's incredibly similar. And they have a really forgiving free version where you can have meetings up to 40 minutes with up to 3 people. So if you do not want to invest yourself in monthly subscriptions just yet, Zoom has a great free offering for you. So I would go check that out. You can create meetings, and then you can send invites to those meetings to people's email address. It integrates with your Google Calendar, which is really nice. And we use Zoom for basically all of our digital meetings. We do all of our certified partner meetings through that. We do our mastermind calls through that. And if you ever book a meeting one-on-one with me, our call will be through Zoom as well. So if you find yourself in a situation where you need to do live calls, then Zoom is definitely a great way to do that. Next up, Loom for screen recording. So if you are working with clients and you find yourself as a consultant and you need to do Zoom recordings in order to show someone how to do something or to point out a specific issue, Loom is a inexpensive way to do that very, very quickly. It's actually, you can see it on my screen here. So if I go ahead and just click Loom here, it will pop up and it will show me some tools. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. It'll show me some recording tools for this particular tab, and I will be able to actually record this entirely from my browser. So super cool stuff on that front. And again, incredibly inexpensive, if not free. Again, I think their free version is actually incredibly forgiving. You can host up to a certain number of hours of content until it starts kind of churning over. Next, so a couple of tools that we use for project management. If you're not all in the same offense, project management becomes incredibly important so that everybody's on the same page. The tools that we use in-house for that are Basecamp, which we use as kind of like task management. We use it for our chat as well. So we do all of that through Basecamp. And we also, up until recently, used Trello. But Trello is an incredibly cost-effective method for project management since it's basically, for the most part, free. So, and it has that kind of like the moving of cards thing going on, which is nice in order to keep track of the current state of projects. You can set up your states and all that stuff. So good stuff there. So if you find yourself in need of tools related to project management, screen recording, and video chat, here are some great tools that you can use and that we recommend you go check out. Next, let's talk about for outreach. For outreach, what we have on here is OBS. So for outreach, that qualifies as us basically communicating en masse to our customers. Obviously, in this category, in addition to OBS, is Groundhogg, because you can send out mass emails and broadcast emails to your list. If you're not doing that already, you should be. But let's talk about OBS. So OBS is what I'm currently using to live stream live to you right now. OBS stands for Open Broadcast Studio, or Open Broadcasting Software, one of those two. Yeah, it's Open Broadcasting Software Studio is what it's called. And it's an open source platform. It's totally free, and you can live stream from your computer direct to Facebook Live without any additional software, and it's super great. There's only about what I'd probably classify as a 20-second delay. So if you comment, it's based on something I said 20 seconds ago. But great tool, great software, and we've been using it since the beginning, and super, super easy to work with. You can get the picture-in-picture with the webcam and the screen in there. You can select specific windows to share if you don't want to share the whole desktop. Just great stuff all around. Let's talk about some home studio gear. So you'll have noticed that I have kind of like the studio rig set up here. I got my mic, I got my pop filter. So let's talk about home setups for remote working. So first of all, if you don't have dual screens, I highly recommend it. I am fortunate as I have two, and I think these are something like 38 inches across. They're pretty freaking massive, or 36 inches across, and I have two of them. They're curved slightly, so I get that nice dashboard look. But working with two screens is just incredibly helpful. It allows you to have kind of like your web development on maybe one side and your chat and project management on the other side. So if you're communicating while you're making changes, then you don't have to tab in and out. Next, you need a headset. Headsets are super, super, super important, obviously, because you have the ear component and you have the microphone component. If you are currently using your regular webcam with your microphone, I don't recommend that because the audio quality is extremely poor, and the audio quality for the person on the other end, so your microphone quality is incredibly poor. I find that working with a headset and having good audio and microphone quality is conducive to having a good meeting and to providing a good experience with either customers. So if you have a customer on the other end of that call and then that's the level of communication, then it's that much more professional and they have that much more of a good experience. If you're having a meeting, having good microphone quality and good audio is conducive to getting the most out of the minutes that you're spending together. This audio, or this microphone, is a Logitech G350. Is that what it is? I'm going to double check for that. I'm going to get that information to you in a sec. This one is, I think, relatively inexpensive, and it works really, really, really well. And it is called, is that it there? Yeah, so it's the Logitech H540 is what it's called. And it's a USB headset. It retails for about $70 Canadian, so relatively inexpensive compared to some of the other stuff out there. And it's really good quality. The microphone quality is really good. Obviously, I have a different microphone setup that I'm using, and I don't use this one very often. But if you're not doing sort of like broadcasting or podcasting like I do on a regular basis, then this headset, inexpensive and very, very, very good bang for your buck. If you are doing podcasting and you need to build yourself a rig at home, I do have a couple of recommendations for you. So number one is you want to get one of these awesome boom things, these boom mics, and you're going to need a pop filter, and you're going to need something called a, it's over here. You know what? I'm going to actually do a dedicated episode to that at a later date because there's a lot of stuff going on here. What I have is I have this recording studio mic, and it's set up to a XLR cable, and I have an XLR to USB converter, or called an interface. So it's a USB interface for XLR, and I got all like the dials and the things on it, and it's made by Behringer, and it's also relatively inexpensive, and that's some good stuff there. I have a tablet with a pen. Really helps for marking stuff up if you're taking screenshots and you want to point stuff out to someone if they can't walk over your desk and look over your shoulder. You can grab the pen and you can start circling things. There are a lot of pen styluses available for relatively inexpensive on Amazon these days. I'd highly recommend you pick one of those up if you have not already. It just makes the remote work experience for kind of marking stuff up incredibly much, much easier. All right, we blasted through that. Those are some recommendations that I have for working remotely. Make sure that you have your project management and your communication tools in place. I don't have Slack listed on here, but Slack is also a great option for communication. We just use Basecamp instead. Zoom for voice recording. They have the best quality out of any of the providers, I think, as well as the most stable platform. Loom for screen recording, really easy to work with. It just installs in your browser. Basecamp for project management, or Trello, which is free, again, for project management. For outreach, Zoom, if you're doing live streams to a large audience. OBS is just probably one of the least expensive way. Just get everybody in a Facebook group and live stream to them all at once. And for studio gear, make sure you have good gear. You don't want to be using your microphone and your headset. It's not conducive to you're not going to be wanting using your built-in webcam with your built-in microphone if you're on a laptop. You're going to get a proper webcam and a proper headset. I think for webcam, I'm using a Logitech C340. That's what it's called, right? Logitech I'm using a Logitech C310 webcam, which does 720p, which is good enough, and certainly better than my laptop's built-in camera. And then a Logitech H540 headset for your communication, your microphoning. Okay, so let's jump into actual questions now. So if you have questions about Groundhogg, about implementation, about funnels, about WordPress, about marketing strategies, now is your time to ask those. You can just pop your questions into the chat, and I am more than happy to answer those live on the call. Questions. Please do not be shy. There is no such thing as a bad question. All questions are created equal. So if you have a question, pre-sales questions even, if you're not worried about implementation, maybe you're listening to this call and you're not even a customer yet. If you have any pre-sales questions, I'd love to be able to answer those as well. I have a question from Zane. Zane asks, I am setting up a new IAM user under my AWS root account for a new client and verified the new domain. After logging into the console as the new IAM user and going through the process of verifying the new domain, SES immediately shows new domain enabled for sending. My question is, am I set up correctly to protect the other domains belonging to other IAM users in the event this new domain gets flagged for too many bounces or other sending reputations? So the thing about you adding all of your clients to the same SES account is that SES is not divided into IAM users. So for anybody listening who has no idea kind of like what IAM or AWS or any of this stuff is, AWS is Amazon Web Services, and they have something called SES, which is their simple email service, which is a great way to send email very cost effectively. It's like 0.00001 cents per email or something. So incredibly cost effective versus other solutions that are out there. And in some cases, you may want to have multiple people. If you are, say, a consultant or a implementer or a developer, you may want to add your customers to the same AWS SES account. So the question is, for permissions, you can designate permissions to certain websites through IAM permissions. So you can remotely deactivate certain sites with those permissions from using your AWS account. But Zane, the relationship of AWS or from domains to an IAM users is not segregated inside your account. So that means that if you have all of those domains added to your SES account, their reputation is pooled for your AWS account, regardless of whether they are designated to different IAM permissions or not. They are all in your AWS account, so you have a level of responsibility to ensure that those people are obeying your restrictions and your rules and are sending good email. They were created with different IAM permissions, they will all still have the same IP or IP pool, and they'll still have the reputation associated with your account. Hopefully that makes sense. So what do you do? Well, if you are taking on a high-risk client and you're worried about them sending bad email, get them their own AWS account. That is really the only way to mitigate that situation, because there's really AWS SES does not provide a way to kind of segregate reputation among different domains. It's kind of all pooled into your AWS account. So I'm sorry about that. But that's kind of just how that is. Something that you can do, though, is if you are using different IAM permissions for every single website, if you start getting up there, and you see your reputation taking a hit, you can remotely deactivate that person's credentials, and then they won't be able to send any further email from their website because their credentials that they're using on the website will be deactivated. So that you can do that, and that certainly allows you a process for mitigation of that particular issue. But the actual reputation in the AWS console is not segregated between IAM users. It's all just your AWS account. So hopefully that makes sense. So it looks like Zane understands. So awesome. Thanks for the question, Zane. Hopefully that provides you with some actionable next steps. If anybody else has other questions about any of our extensions, about Groundhogg, about WordPress, about plugins, about integrations, any pre-sales questions, if you're new to the community, or if you just want to say hi, now is your opportunity to do so. And I would love to be able to answer anything for you. Josh Henry had a question and asked, what is the best evergreen webinar platform that plays nice with Groundhogg? I have a Zoom webinar now, but I'm not sure I can evergreen the Zoom recorded webinar. So I don't do a whole lot of stuff with evergreen webinars, I'll be completely honest. I do live webinars every Tuesday, rotating between 10 and 3. It's called office hours, if you're not familiar. But if you're doing evergreen webinar, you want to set up an evergreen webinar strategy. The first thing I would do is I would just set up a page with a video on it. I know that's not that's not the greatest solution to a problem, but that is the best way to figure out if your strategy is actually worthwhile. So a lot of the times I see small businesses kind of rush into strategies that they heard about on podcasts or on office hours like ours, or on other platforms, and they see these people being successful with these strategies, and then they rush in to implement the strategies with the exact same tools that those businesses are using. The problem with that is that, yes, strategies are often applicable between multiple different segments. It's not always the case. So if you find yourself in a situation where you've never tested an evergreen webinar before, you've never tested a strategy before, what you should be doing is you should be setting up what I call a minimum viable product, or in this case, a minimum viable strategy. And then you should be building that strategy as cheaply as humanly possible. And often the best way to do that is to just create a page on WordPress, record your webinar, or record a video of you talking about your webinar or pretending it's a webinar. Or better, record an actual webinar that you do. So do the webinar live once, record it, and then host that video on Vimeo, and then slap that on a page. And then what you do is, instead of introducing all of these different webinar tools or evergreen webinar tools or Zoom or anything like that, you just have a hosted Vimeo on a page, and then when people opt into your list, the thank you page is that video, and then they can watch it instantly. Now, what this will do is this, given a certain amount of time has gone by, this will validate if it's a good idea or not. Because if you have really, really, really bad results, it's probably not because it's not truly evergreen, but because it's just a bad strategy, or it's a strategy that's not working for your particular use case. So what I would do is, before investing in additional tools or in additional software, you can do a vast majority of it with the tools you already have. Groundhogg, WordPress, whatever page builder you use, and a free Vimeo account with the Vimeo video hosted on it. That is what I would do for an evergreen webinar. If you see that the results you're getting are really good, and they're validated, you have two options. You can optimize it more by going and finding really good evergreen webinar software, or you can just let it be and not kind of mess with the formula that's working for you. So those are just a couple of things to think about. When we first started doing our courses in our academy, what we did is, instead of investing the time in LMS software and starting out with that, we literally just started hosting videos on pages, and we just sent people to those pages, and that's what we did, and that worked quite well. We also had a demo page, which we had back in the day. We have better tools for demos these days, so we don't host that video anymore, but that works really well. Whenever anybody asked for a demo, instead of doing like a live demo webinar or whatever, we had a quote-unquote evergreen demo webinar, and we would just send people to that page with a video recording on it, and they could click play, and they could watch the 25 or so minute demo and go through that. So that would be my recommendation for anybody thinking about introducing new levels of software in order to achieve a specific purpose. If you can do it without spending any more money, and just with the tools that you have, and oftentimes you can, and oftentimes it's easier to do it that way, you can validate the strategy first, and then you can invest time in optimizing it later if you find that it's getting good results. If it's not getting good results, then it's probably best to just scrap it and try something else. That is my recommendation on that front. So if there are any other questions, thank you for those. Thank you for that question, Josh. And thank you for the question, Zane. If you have any other questions, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to comment those now. I'm going to repeat it live. I'm going to answer it live to the best of my ability. And we are going to, if I need to do any sort of screen capture or screen recording for that, I'll also be able to show you just how to do whatever it is that you need on my computer here. Any takers? There are no bad questions. All right, so I'm not seeing any takers, and I understand that we're currently in a climate where everybody's kind of frantically figuring out what they're going to do and taking care of their families and sorting their lives out. And if you find yourself in that situation, I hope that you are okay and that you stay safe. And I understand that that leads to probably lower attendance rates on office hours than usual. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm not seeing any takers for questions, which is totally fine. Let's just move on, and we're going to start wrapping up office hours for this session. If you have questions, don't worry, we're going to talk about any residual questions in a bit. So first of all, let's talk about some resources. You can go to academy.groundhogg.io at any time, where recordings of office hours are posted, as well as we have our Quick Start course and our course Creators Essentials course. And you can go there and take those for absolutely free. They are no cost. If you are more of a person who wants everything to be taken care of for them, you don't want to get your hands dirty in Groundhogg, you want someone who is knowledgeable in the software to do all of the implementation, then we have a group of certified partners who are available at your disposal. You can go to our certified partner directory. There is the link, and you can find yourself a partner to help you with your implementation and your project. If you are if you do YouTube videos, or you do podcasting, or you are an influencer, or you have a list, then what you can do is you can monetize that some way. If you think that your list would benefit from using Groundhogg, you can go to our affiliate area and register as an affiliate to earn 10% commissions on any people that you refer to our software. So really, really awesome stuff there. I highly recommend that you do so. If you are not following us yet, there are several ways to do that. Number one, you can do that on Twitter. So it's at GroundhoggWP. You can also do that on Facebook, same handle, GroundhoggWP. And you should also definitely subscribe to us on YouTube, where we also post the replays of office hours there. If you have been using Groundhogg for a while and you enjoy being part of the community, you like the software, it's helping you grow your business, then I would be eternally grateful if you would reciprocate a little bit by going to our WordPress.org repository page and leaving a 5-star review. Reviews mean we get more customers, which means we get more developers, which means the tools that you want faster and more developed. So great stuff all around. It's a cyclical relationship there. So if you haven't left a review yet, please do so. And if you have any other questions, then that is why the Facebook group exists. You can ask your questions in the Facebook group. You can also reach out to us at GroundhoggWP on both Facebook and Twitter. Excuse me. And you can also email us info@groundhogg.io. Thank you. I hope everybody is staying safe given our global situation. I hope everybody has enough to get them through. And I will see everybody at 3 p.m. next week. It'll be a 3 p.m. office hours next week. So make sure that you add that to your calendar. And it looks like Michael just got in before we cut off office hours with a question, coming in right at the finish line there. Michael asks, can you use one SES plan on all of my instances of Groundhogg on 10 of my sites? And these sites are under the umbrella company who owns the companies. So that's a confusing way to put that question, but absolutely you can. You can register as many domains under the same Amazon AWS SES account as you possibly want, if they're all owned by the same companies, and even if they're not all owned by the same company. I know some consultants who are just adding all of their clients to their AWS SES account and charging management fee to do that. But absolutely, Michael, you do not need an AWS account for every single domain or website. You can group all of those into the same SES account. The only thing I would do is I create different IAM permissions, so different user credentials for every single site. That way, if a site gets hacked or if those credentials are leaked, you can deactivate that one site's credentials without harming any of the other credentials used among any of the other sites. So that is the only thing that I would recommend, so that you can distinguish permissions for sites individually, but you can certainly group all of your domains and all of your accounts into one SES account. So absolutely. Okay, thank you everybody. I hope that you found this session useful. I hope that you learned something, and I will see everybody at 3 p.m. next week. Have a wonderful day and stay safe.